We always say that November is the most important month of college football. So it was very fitting that the first Saturday in November happened to be the most important weekend of college football in 2020. And Week 10 lived up to the hype. It lived up to the hype. I'm still not fully recovered from what I saw all day on Saturday. Two major top 10 showdowns. Two other big top 25 showdowns. The return of the Pac-12 and everything in between. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert Guys here with our Week 10 college football recap. We're going to break down about 8 to 10 games here that we thought were the most important and provided some of the biggest storylines and biggest moments of the weekend. Obviously a weekend that gave us a lot of clarity when it came to individual conference races, to the college football playoff race, and provided us with some of the most exciting games that we have seen this season. And I'm sure you already know what I'm talking about. If you want to find out where these games are listed in the video, again, check out all the timestamps down in the description. We are going to find all the games that we talk about right there down in the timestamps so you can find them a lot easier and a lot quicker. And also make sure to check out everything else down in there because we're getting hot on our predictions. That's where we want to start our recap like we always do. Obviously, out of town this weekend, so the whiteboard had to stay behind. Hated to leave her behind, but she had to stick behind. So we don't have that up here, so all of our numbers are going to be listed below. But it was a fantastic Week 10. 20-6 straight up this weekend. That's 76.9%. And that brings our overall straight up to 145-43, sitting at 77.1%. And again, if you've been here for a while, you know our goal every year is to be at 76% or better. And we're well over a percentage point of that. So we're shaping up for our best season yet. And we've also said all year long that we were shaping up for one of our better seasons against the spread. And we said that we hoped you were sticking with us. Because, yeah, we started a little slow, started a little sluggish, but we are hot. We are on fire. And we hope that you have signed up for our expert picks because we just went 8-2 this weekend. 8-2 in Week 10. 80%. That brings our overall to 49-43. If you've been with us, we said we're going to hit 53%. We said we will finish 2020 at 53% or better. And we're sitting at 53.3% right now. We have hit 61% of our bets over the past 4 weeks. Actually, a little over that, about 61.5% of our bets over the past 4 weeks. We are on fire, and we are so grateful for all of you that have joined our expert picks, have signed up for those on our website, and if you haven't, it lasts a full 365 days. You get the rest of this year and a lot of next year as well. Make sure you go sign up because we're on fire here at the Gridiron Expert. We're on a roll, we're heating up, and we're not going to cool off anytime soon. 8-2 in Week 10. Absolutely thrilled with that. So that's a little bit of a prediction recap here. We're staying hot. We're doing well, both straight up and against the spread. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the individual games that we had played in Week 10. And let's start on Friday night. We have to start there. Over on the Smurf Turf in Boise, Idaho. You know, this was a game, guys, that was going to test BYU. Everybody thought that the Cougars maybe were overrated. The 9th-ranked BYU Cougars, who really hadn't played anybody. Their best tests maybe were Navy and Houston. Going up against the 21st-ranked Boise State Broncos, who were only playing in their 3rd game. Remember, the Mountain West having just started football just a few weeks ago. They come into this game as just 2.5-point favorites. A lot of people were picking the Broncos. Not us. Not us. We had faith in Kalani Sitake. We had faith in Zach Wilson and the Cougars. And I'm glad that we did because they showed up and they showed out. They beat the Broncos 51-17 in Boise. No team just goes in there and does that. We know how dangerous Boise State is on their own turf, on that blue turf. And BYU went in there and won by 34 points. Remember, their average margin of victory in their 7 games prior to that was 31 points. And people thought, well, that's just because they've been playing cupcake opponents. No way they're going to do that to Boise State. And they did. And say what you want. Say what you want. Boise State lost Jack Sears, their second-string quarterback, because Hank Bachmeier didn't play. Lost their second-string quarterback earlier in the game. which means that Cade Finnegan had to come in, the freshman quarterback had to come in and finish for the Broncos, it wouldn't have mattered. If Jack Sears had played that entire game, it wouldn't have mattered because the Boise State defense had no answer for BYU and Zach Wilson. Tyler Algier had an 86-yard touchdown run less than 4 minutes into the game. That set the tone and set the tone early. Zach Wilson continuing to show why he's one of the better quarterbacks in the country. 359 yards, 3 total touchdowns in this game. The Cougars had 573 yards of offense against the Broncos. They just took down their toughest test of the season, a ranked Boise State team on the road, by 34 points. They added to that total. The average margin of victory has increased now on the year over their 8 wins. Increased. They're beating their opponents by over 31 points per game this year. The remaining 2 games are against North Alabama and San Diego State. BYU is going to finish 10-0. There's no doubt in my mind. The Cougars are going to finish 10-0. And they actually do have a chance and a case for their college football playoff. Strength of schedule outside of Boise still isn't there. But if the chips fall their way, the Cougars could make a little bit of a run. It's time to take them seriously. Their top 10 spot is well-deserved. They proved that to the nation on Friday night. Unbelievable victory for the 9th-ranked BYU Cougars, who will move up in the rankings on Sunday. Moving on to Saturday, I want to touch on the Big Ten. Let's just think for a second. When the AP poll comes out, Indiana's going to be a top 10 team. At least they should be. The Indiana Hoosiers are going to be a top 10 team going into week 11. I know it's relatively young for the Big Ten. The season's young for them. But they just took down number 23 Michigan, 38-21 in Bloomington. Indiana's first win over Michigan since 1987. 1987, Indiana's first win over the Wolverines. Unbelievable. You take down Penn State in week 1. Go on the road and take down Rutgers. Now you take down Michigan. The Hoosiers, yeah, they're the biggest threat to Ohio State in the East. And I guarantee you no one thought that going into 2020. If anyone had told you Indiana was going to be Ohio State's toughest test, not Penn State, not Michigan, but Indiana, everybody would have thought you were crazy. And here we are. Tom Allen's squad's looking great. Michael Penix is looking great. 342 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Wolverines on Saturday. Indiana led by 17 points at halftime. They dominated the game from start to finish. They have 460 total yards in the game. They forced 2 turnovers on the Wolverines. And in our Week 10 predictions, we picked Indiana, and we said, to win this game, Indiana has to shut down the Michigan run game. That was our only concern, was Indiana's rushing defense against a relatively strong Michigan rushing offense. And the Hoosiers held Michigan to 13 rushing yards. 13 rushing yards on the day. That is unreal. Unreal. This Indiana team is legit. A 17-point victory over a ranked Michigan squad. They're going to be a top 10 team, and it's time to take them seriously as potential Big Ten title contenders. I know they might not get past Ohio State, but it's 2020. Crazier things have happened. If they pull off that win over the Buckeyes, they're going to the title game. No doubt in my mind. This Hoosiers team, like BYU, they're for real. Monumental victory for them. A disappointing loss and season already for Michigan, who has now dipped below 500 through 3 games for the first time since 2008. And Jim Harbaugh, more than likely, will be out of a job by season's end. Switching over to the Pac-12. Let's go ahead and hit all the conferences here. Pac-12 kicked off with a bang on Saturday morning. You know, these early games, for us in Central Time, at least where I am, in Central Time, start at 11 a.m., so that's not too early. For the guys out west, this is starting at like 9 a.m. their time. So this is Pac-12, as they're saying, before dawn, and then it's Pac-12 after dark when we get those late night games. We got to see a before dawn game here between USC and Arizona State. And I said it kicked off with a bang because this was secretly one of the better games of Week 10. I hope you all got to watch it. The 20th ranked Trojans were able to take down Herm Edwards, Jaden Daniels, and the Sun Devils 28-27. But did you see how it happened? Arizona State led USC. Keep in mind, the Sun Devils, over 10-point underdogs coming into this game in the Coliseum. They were winning the game. They were winning the game 27-14 with 11:23 remaining. The Sun Devils, according to the FPI, had a 99.9% chance to win this game with just 3 minutes and 5 seconds remaining, where they still led by 13 points. They forced a fourth down and 13 with 2:52 remaining. And Brew McCoy, remember that name? The big 5-star recruit that was like, I'm going to go to Texas. Never mind, I'm going to go to USC. And could not make up his mind where he was going to go play football. Brew McCoy finally made an impact and hit a 26-yard touchdown pass from Keaton Slovis to cut into that Arizona State lead. Well, then USC got the onside kick. And a few minutes later, they faced a 4th and 9 from the 21-yard line. And USC scored again. They scored again to take the lead with 1:20 remaining. The Trojans scored 2 touchdowns in the final 2 minutes and 52 seconds. And even though it was not an upset, USC, the higher-ranked team, I would say upset Arizona State because you know those Sun Devils left upset. They left devastated. They had that game in the bag. And ended up collapsing late in the game. USC gets a huge season-opening victory behind the arm of Keaton Slovis, 381 yards and 2 touchdowns, and maybe in Week 1 saved Clay Helton's job. We knew he was on the hot seat coming in, and losing in Week 1 to an unranked opponent as the 20th ranked team in the country at home would have done him no good in terms of saving his job out in LA. So a huge win for the Trojans. Many think they can make the Pac-12 championship this year, maybe be Oregon's biggest threat in the Pac-12. They needed this win, and they got the job done just barely. Thrilling game, one of the best of the week. It was wild. That game was wild out in LA, but was it as wild as what happened in Blacksburg? Blacksburg, number 25 Liberty, Virginia Tech. It's not every day that you see a top 25 team go into a game as 2 touchdown underdogs. Liberty was ranked 25th. They walked into Virginia Tech as about 14.5, 15-point underdogs to the Hokies. Doesn't happen very often. And that shouldn't have happened in this game. Malik Willis, I want you all to know, is the real deal. Malik Willis in this game, 325 yards, 4 total touchdowns for the Liberty Flames. He is unreal. Remember, the Auburn transfer decided to go play for Hugh Freeze over at Liberty. He's making an immediate impact, and you can expect Liberty to make a major jump in the new AP rankings, a video which we will have out on Monday. We'll break down those new set of rankings. But Hugh Freeze and Liberty simply went into Blacksburg and outcoached Justin Fuente and the Hokies in a game that was unlike any other. A game unlike any other, one of the wildest I've ever seen. 32 combined fourth quarter points between the Flames and the Hokies. They were just trading score for score, even though Virginia Tech held a slight lead at halftime. As the game was dwindling down, after Virginia Tech scored a touchdown with under a minute left, Liberty lined up for a game-winning 59-yard field goal. They make it, they win, a monumental upset for the program. If not, we're going to overtime. Or maybe it's going to get blocked and returned for a touchdown, and Virginia Tech is going to win as time expired on a blocked field goal. That's what happened until the referees blew the play dead because Justin Fuente iced the kicker. What are you doing? Look, the odds of Liberty making a 59-yard field goal were pretty slim enough. That's a long field goal. And I get it, you think we're just going to ice him. It's a long field goal, but in the slim chance he actually makes it, let's ice him. Let's put the pressure on him. But you know Justin Fuente's kicking himself, and you know the Hokie fans are cringing. They're upset. Why would you do that? So the play that was going to win the game for Virginia Tech, an unreal ending, got called back. And Liberty faced 4th down, decided to pick up some more yards. They had a couple seconds left. They got a little bit closer. Instead of a 59-yard field goal, it was a 51-yard field goal, and the Flames nailed it. They nailed it, and they walked into Blacksburg, and they won 38-35 over the Virginia Tech Hokies. Remember, they were 14.5-point favorites going into this game, even though Liberty was the ranked team, 25th in the country. And they showed, like BYU, like Indiana, that they're very deserving of their ranking. Many people thought Liberty was a joke. They haven't played anybody. Why are they 25th? They've played somebody now, and they took care of business in that game. And one of the wildest games and one of the wildest endings that I've seen in a long, long time. At the end of the day, though, again, Hugh Freeze and Liberty simply outcoached to me and outplayed Justin Fuente and the Hokies, who unfortunately had been in store for a disappointing season after having so much promise at the beginning of the year. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We've got 4 more games that we want to talk about here. Let's get to one of the bigger ones. Top 10 showdown. Number 8, Florida. Number 5, Georgia. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party down in Jacksonville. You know it. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows that this was the game that was going to decide the SEC East. The winner of this game pretty much has a 99.9% chance, which, as we know from Arizona State, is not necessarily a lock, but has a pretty dang good chance of winning the SEC East and more than likely facing Alabama in the SEC championship game. We know Georgia was depleted. We knew they were down a lot of defensive starters. We knew they were down a couple of key offensive starters, but their whole team as a whole were not depleted. And we saw that right out of the gate when Georgia scored on the first play of the game, a 75-yard rush touchdown from Zamir White. The Bulldogs then forced a quick 3-and-out, scored again, 14-0. Everybody's like, holy crap. Florida's dynamic offense, Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts and Dan Mullen, they're down 14-0 to a depleted Georgia squad. Maybe this isn't their year. Maybe Kirby Smart still has the Gators' number. Then Florida woke up. They scored 14 unanswered, 14 all. Georgia scored on a pick 6, 21-14. You thought this might be a close game. This might be a game that comes down to the wire like it did last year, like we've seen back in 2012, another game very similar to this one in terms of the stakes. Then Florida again woke up. After that pick 6, the Gators outscored the Bulldogs 30-7. 30-7. And if you watched our Florida-Georgia preview video, we had keys to the game for each team. Florida hit theirs, Georgia did not. One of our keys for Florida was stop the pass. Many will say that was easy to do, especially when you have Stetson Bennett under center. The Bulldogs only had 112 passing yards on the day and only had 277 total yards. Remember, 75 of those came on that first play of the game. Take that away, 202 total yards for the Bulldogs. So the Gators, their defense, they showed up. We knew the offense could do it. Their defense showed up and shut down Stetson Bennett to the point where they had to change and put in DeJuan Mathis because that's going to do it. Anybody see him play against Arkansas in week 1? If you thought he was going to do well against Florida, you were ridiculous. Unbelievable. Kirby Smart has got to do better about not being so stubborn and making some maybe bright decisions. That was one of our keys for Florida. Georgia, we said one of their keys was take care of the football. Take care of the football. Win the turnover battle. The Bulldogs didn't do that. They had 3 turnovers in this game. You're not going to beat a team like Florida that can move the ball so well, so efficiently. Even against a solid defense like Georgia, you're not going to beat them when you lose the turnover battle. The Gators made the Bulldogs pay for their mistakes. Kyle Trask, let's put some respect on his name. Legitimate Heisman Trophy contender. 474 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Bulldogs. Yeah, he's legit. He's the real deal. He is the real deal. And he has a chance to continue to pad those stats. The remaining schedule for Florida: Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Tennessee, LSU. Practically a cakewalk for the remainder of the season for the Gators. Toughest game in there might be Tennessee, honestly. And they just lost to Arkansas. Maybe it's Arkansas, maybe it's LSU, who knows, but Florida will be favored in all those 5 games, should win all 5 of those games, setting up a monumental showdown in Atlanta for the SEC championship game. The Gators went into Jacksonville. They took care of business. They snapped their 3-game losing streak to the Bulldogs, and Georgia is eliminated from the SEC title contention, more than likely, and are certainly eliminated from the college football playoff. A huge, huge win and a huge day from Dan Mullen and the Gators, overcoming the slow start and dominating the Bulldogs 44-28. Big 12, real quick. One of the bigger games of the week was Oklahoma State and Kansas State. We said this game would have been better, would have been bigger, if neither team had lost back in week 9. Oklahoma State fell to Texas. Kansas State got blown out by West Virginia. And it was shocking to see Kansas State leading the Cowboys by 12-0 at halftime. And I will say this, after watching Oklahoma State play pretty good offensively against Iowa State and Texas, this game was pitiful. It was sloppy, it was full of mistakes, not nearly as electric as they should have been. Spencer Sanders only had 108 passing yards, but the 14th ranked Cowboys, we said their defense was legit. We said you would see that defense show up again against Kansas State. That's exactly what happened. Cowboys forced 2 turnovers, both of them coming at crucial times in the game, one of them resulting in an 85-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. So they scored a defensive touchdown there, 2 turnovers. Kansas State missed 2 two-point conversions. I get sometimes you want to go for those early, but Chris Kleiman has to know. He went for what? One of them in the second quarter? You never go for 2 that early. I don't care if you're winning or if you're down. You don't go for 2 that early. You only do it when you have to. And you look at it now, that 2-point conversion, both of those came back to bite them as the Wildcats lost by 2 points, 20-18. So a big, big win for the Cowboys. They keep their Big 12 title hopes alive. They join Iowa State as the only other team that has 1 conference loss, and they keep their slim college football playoff hopes alive as well. Odds of them getting in, very, very slim. But we've seen 1-loss Big 12 teams get in before. It could happen again. The Cowboys go into Manhattan and get a big conference win over a solid Wildcats team that just could not do enough offensively. Another quick Pac-12 note. Oregon, we got to touch on them. Why? Because they are the Pac-12's best chance of getting a team into the college football playoff. 12th ranked Ducks, post Justin Herbert era, took down Stanford 35-14. And it was a little concerning at first. It's the first game of the year for every Pac-12 team. So you would expect some mistakes early. You would expect some sluggish starts early on. And we got that from Oregon. We got that from the Ducks. They only led Stanford 14-7 at halftime. But then they began to wear Stanford down like good teams do. Oregon, 269 rushing yards against the Cardinal. They averaged 6.7 yards per carry on 40 rushes. They were very balanced in this game. A lot of credit to Mario Cristobal and the Ducks in this game for staying balanced, for sticking to what they are good at, and that's running the football with C.J. Friedel. Tyler Shugg didn't play bad either at quarterback. Remember, he's a new quarterback, new man in charge now that Justin Herbert has departed, doing very well with the LA Chargers. Tyler Shugg, 227 yards and 2 total touchdowns in his first start with the Ducks, at least, post-Herbert era. The Ducks are the Pac-12's best chance of getting into the college football playoff, and they certainly looked like Pac-12 champion material and playoff material in that second half against the Cardinal. They certainly have a very good chance of running the table in 2020. And then finally, our last note, and our last game, it's the biggest one of the day. We all know it. Number 1 Clemson, number 4 Notre Dame. To me, the game of the year. Undisputed. And I'm so glad that this game lived up to the hype, because we see time and time again, we get so excited for these top 10 matchups in the season, and a lot of times they end up in blowouts. One team underperforms, or one team just plays way better, plays lights out football, and the other team can't do anything about it. Both these teams, to me, played lights out football. And it was a shame that one of them had to go home a loser, because this was an unbelievable football game. The Fighting Irish, though, taking down the top-ranked Clemson Tigers 47-40 in not 1 but 2 overtimes. I mean, you can't beat that. You cannot beat that. How great is that? So yes, to me, this is the game of the year, and here's why. Notre Dame, one of our keys to the game for them was they needed to start fast. What did they do? They scored on the second play of the game. Kyron Williams, 65-yard touchdown. I didn't think they'd start that fast. I didn't need them to start that fast, but they did. Second play of the game, Notre Dame jumps out 7-0 lead. They're up 10-0 early. They're up 10 points at halftime, 23-13 at halftime. Then Clemson scored the only points in the third quarter, all 10 going in favor of the Tigers. So we're tied at 23 going into the fourth quarter. Remember, number 1, number 4, ACC showdown, major conference title implications, major college football playoff implications. A good chance these two teams can meet again in the ACC championship game. We go into the fourth quarter. It's back and forth, but Clemson, they take the lead with 3:33 remaining in the game. Touchdown run from Travis Etienne. Two teams trade a few possessions. And then here we go. Minute 41 left. Ian Book and the Fighting Irish, they get the ball back. 91 yards to go. They've got to get a touchdown to send this game to overtime. If you follow us on Twitter, I asked, I said, here we go, 91 yards. is Ian Book about to lead a legendary touchdown drive to send this game into overtime. And he did. He did. He was flawless on it. That 91-yard drive with 1:41 remaining, Notre Dame scored with 22 seconds remaining in the game. We're off to overtime in South Bend, a place where Notre Dame has won 22 straight games. But I believe it was Clemson. They carried a 36 straight game winning streak in the regular season. Which one was going to snap? Which one was going to snap? We get to overtime. The two teams trade touchdowns in the first overtime. Notre Dame, they get themselves a touchdown in the top of the second overtime. So now it's up to DJ Uiagalelei, the freshman QB in replacement of Trevor Lawrence, who couldn't play in this game due to having COVID-19. And in that second overtime, the Notre Dame defense stepped up big. And I really thought it was very poetic. I really did. Let's go look at what happened last week between Clemson and Boston College. You know, Boston College jumped out to an early lead, 28-10. Clemson fought all the way back. And right there at the end of the game, it was the Clemson defense that pressured Phil Jurkovec and forced that safety at the end, ended up winning by 6. I know the safety was not the defining play, but their defense stepped up to prevent the game-winning drive. In this game against Clemson, Notre Dame's defense was the one that stepped up and pressured DJ Uiagalelei. 2 sacks back-to-back in that second overtime. They forced a 4th and 24, and everybody in the stadium knew it was done at that point. 4th and 24, you're down 7 in South Bend. Clemson wasn't going to pick up that first down. We all knew it. They tried a fancy hook and ladder. It collapsed. Didn't run it near to perfection as Rutgers did a few weeks ago. But it was still a valiant effort. And I got to say, it was a valiant effort from DJ Uiagalelei. Second start of his career. He's a freshman going up against a top 4 team in the country on the road, and he throws for 439 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's impressive. That's amazing. That doesn't happen from a freshman. That's amazing. And again, that shows that Clemson's going to be just fine when Trevor Lawrence bolts for the NFL. The future is still very bright, and Clemson's not going anywhere once Uiagalelei is the full-time starter. But more analysis on this game. We broke down the summary here. We talked about the keys to the game for both Clemson and Notre Dame in our video that we posted on Friday. We talked about that. We said one of the keys for Notre Dame was this: pressure Uiagalelei. They did that when it mattered most in the second overtime. Clemson, one of their keys was to protect him. They were unable to do that. We said that the winner, like very similar to Georgia-Florida, whoever won the turnover battle was going to win this game. We said that whoever wins the turnover battle will win this game. Notre Dame did that. Notre Dame had 1 turnover. Clemson had 3. All 3 of those were fumbles. 1 of those was returned for a touchdown, proving very critical and very important in a game like this. Another key for Notre Dame was try to shut down Travis Etienne, but shut down Amari Rodgers. They didn't do very well in shutting down Amari Rodgers. They exceeded expectations when shutting down Etienne, who had just 28 rushing yards and had just 57 receiving yards. You held Travis Etienne to under 100 total yards. That's amazing. That is unreal. We talked about the rushing defenses. Clemson was allowing 99.9 rushing yards per game. Notre Dame was allowing 93.7. Which one was going to give? It wasn't Notre Dame's. It was Clemson, who allowed 140 yards and 3 touchdowns to Kyren Williams and allowed 209 total rushing yards to the Fighting Irish, who, let's just add on to the numbers, had 519 yards against this Brent Venables defense. Again, Venables, the best, arguably, defensive mind in the game, in all of college football. And Notre Dame went in there and put up 519 yards on them. Last week against Boston College, there were excuses for the Tigers. Didn't have T-Law, missed some big defensive starters. You can say that Clemson lost this game because they didn't have Trevor Lawrence. That's not the case. I can promise you that. Notre Dame proved that they can finally win the big games. It was a hard-fought battle. They did everything they could to let Clemson back in this game. The Tigers took advantage of it, but when it mattered most, Notre Dame made the plays. And they've gotten so much heat for not being able to win the big ones. Whether it's in the regular season or in the postseason, they finally have done it. They will remain a top 4 team. To me, the top 4 going in to Sunday, going into Week 11, should be Alabama, Notre Dame, probably Ohio State, and then either Florida or Clemson at number 4. I can't imagine the Tigers falling out of the top 4. If they do, it will only be to 5th. Trevor Lawrence may have made a difference in this game, but I still think had he played, Notre Dame would have won. Because Notre Dame's offense ultimately proved to be too much for this Clemson defense. They made the plays when they needed to the most. Ian Book proved he can make the plays when they needed the most. And the Fighting Irish need to be taken seriously. This game shows me that they can finally win the big ones. And if they get to the ACC title game, which they will, but if they win that, or even lose that, and they make the college football playoff, they can absolutely win a game and get to the national championship. There's no doubt in my mind. The Fighting Irish, an unbelievable performance down in South Bend, an unbelievable game. They take down the number 1 team in the country, 47-40, in double overtime to conclude what was a fantastic weekend of college football. We said it was the biggest and most important of 2020 so far, and it lived up to the hype, and it's not very often that we get to say that. So again, guys, so much to cover here. We tried to keep it a little bit shorter. We only tried to touch on the games, and we're still going over 30 minutes. I guess it just shows how great this weekend truly was. And again, how much clarity we got. Again, we saw the pretenders from the contenders. We separated those now. We separated those. And again, I will stick by that. Notre Dame deserves to be the number 2 team in the country going into Week 11. Alabama should move up to first. I think it should be Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and then Clemson or Florida in at number 4. Those are the teams that are going to be competing for those college football playoff spots over the course of this season. And of course, you have your BYUs and Cincinnatis. Things are heating up. Things are heating up. We said it. November is the best month of college football. It's where crazy things happen. To me, November for college football is like March for college basketball. You don't know what's going to happen. It's absolute madness. It's absolute chaos. In a year like 2020, what else would you expect? So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert, our Week 10 college football recap. An unbelievable weekend. One of the best I've seen in a long, long time. Again, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and check out everything down in our description below. Sign up for our expert picks. I'm telling you, we're getting hot. We're on fire. We're trending in the right direction. 61.5% over the past 4 weeks. Right down there, down in the description. Sign up for those over on our website. Sign up for our newsletter. Sign up for our exclusive content on our website and on our Patreon account. And use our Bet Now promo code. If you love college football, this is the place for you. I can promise you that. Every video we post here and everything we have in that description is solely for you, the diehard college football fan. And we are so thrilled to have you on our team here at the Gridiron Expert. And once again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We will be back with more content later this week. We'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.